Imagine yourself in Lucas's shoes, a 34-year-old ordinary man, living what feels like an endless battle with his finances. He has a stable job, wakes up early every day, works hard, but it seems like his money just disappears the moment it hits his account. Every month, Lucas experiences the same cycle of frustration. He receives his paycheck, but after covering the basics, rent, utilities, groceries, almost everything is gone. If anything is left, it's barely enough to treat himself to a small break or a simple leisure activity, without it turning into yet another financial worry. Lucas tries to balance his expenses, but his credit card is maxed out and his car loan eats up a substantial portion of his income. It feels like he's trapped in a cycle that only gets worse month after month. Each new month is like watching a rerun of the same movie. He struggles, tries to organize his finances, but always ends up with an account balance close to zero, or worse, in the red. When unexpected expenses arise, Lucas resorts to loans or his bank overdraft, but the high interest rates only add to the weight of his debt. He begins to wonder if there's any way out of this situation, or if this is just how life will always be. This constant pressure doesn't just affect Lucas's wallet, it's impacting his health and his relationships too. He starts to feel the anxiety building, something that goes far beyond financial worries. Sleepless nights become routine, and he spends hours lying awake, staring at the ceiling, trying to figure out how to turn things around. When he does manage to sleep, he dreams of unpaid bills, debts, his phone ringing with yet another call from a collector. Lucas feels drained, both physically and emotionally, as if the energy and motivation he once had are slowly being drained away by the weight of his debts. It doesn't stop there. Lucas starts avoiding friends and family, making up excuses to avoid social events. He feels uncomfortable around others, fearing someone might suggest going out to eat or doing something he simply can't afford. He dodges these situations at all costs, but deep down, he knows he's isolating himself. Frustration and shame start piling up, and he feels increasingly alone in his financial struggle. He avoids talking about it, as if keeping the problem a secret might lessen the weight he feels. But of course, this only makes things worse. More and more, he wonders if he will ever be able to break free from this situation. Then, one sleepless night, Lucas decides to go out for a walk. He wanders through the city streets, hoping to find some peace, or at least temporarily relieve the burden of anxiety weighing him down. As he walks, he passes by a bookstore that's still open and decides to step inside. He didn't have any specific purpose for entering, but the calm atmosphere feels like a refuge compared to the constant pressure he faces. He begins wandering between the shelves, browsing through random sections, trying to escape his troubles for just a few minutes. Then, he stumbles upon a book in the finance section, something he normally would have walked right past. But this book has a title that catches his attention: True Wealth Begins in the Mind. He feels a spark of curiosity. Until that moment, Lucas believed that the only way to fix his financial life was by earning more, working harder, or finding a miracle loan. But that title makes him stop and think, as if there was something he had never considered. He picks up the book, starts flipping through the pages, and soon finds himself absorbed in the reading. One of the first sentences hits him deeply. Wealth is not just what you earn, but what you do with what you earn. Lucas realizes that, until now, he had always seen money as a struggle, a battle he needed to win. But the book presents a different idea. Money can be an ally, a tool to build the life he wants. The book's main concept is a strategy called Pay Yourself First. The principle is simple yet powerful. Before paying bills, before covering any expenses, he should set aside a portion of his earnings for himself, a kind of personal fund. This money isn't just a reserve, it's the first step towards seeing himself as a priority in his finances. With this reserve, he begins building an emergency fund, something he has never had until now. Lucas finds himself at a crossroads: continue doing what he's always done, waiting for a change that never comes, or adopt a new approach based on a plan and a new mindset. Motivated by what he read, Lucas buys the book and decides to apply the strategy to his life. He realizes that for it to work, he'll need discipline, but he's determined. He's going to put the Pay Yourself First strategy into practice, even if it means giving up some luxuries. Lucas knows that the beginning will be difficult. but he understands that without an initial effort, his reality will never change. Back at home, he sits down and begins drafting his financial plan. For the first time, he commits to not using any leftover money, because until now, there's never been any leftover. Instead, he will set aside a small amount each month to invest in himself. Lucas feels that this decision is a turning point, a new beginning. With a determination to change, he begins his journey. If you're watching this story and can relate to Lucas's struggle, maybe this is your moment to start your own financial transformation. Comment below, "I choose to change," and share with us your commitment to pursuing financial freedom. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the Rise to Wealth channel, where we're always bringing you strategies and inspiration to help you achieve financial success. The next morning, Lucas wakes up feeling a different kind of energy, a motivation he hasn't felt in a long time. He knows he needs to organize his finances, but this time, not in an improvised way. He's determined to follow the plan he read about in the book, starting with a detailed budget. He understands that in order to set aside a portion of his salary each month, he needs to know exactly where his money is going. So he sits down at his table, surrounded by bills and bank statements, and begins listing every expense, every debt, every subscription he's paying. Lucas realizes that, over the months, he had accumulated spending on things he barely remembered. Streaming services, takeout meals, even unnecessary bank fees. He realizes that many of these costs, when added up, represent a significant portion of his paycheck. It's shocking to see how much he was spending on things that, deep down, weren't truly necessary. This analysis is uncomfortable, but essential. He decides to cut out all non-essential expenses. Subscriptions he barely uses, costly meals out, and small impulse purchases have to go. With these changes, Lucas finally manages to set aside a modest amount to apply the pay-yourself-first strategy. He opens a savings account exclusively for his emergency fund. Each month, as soon as he receives his paycheck, he transfers a fixed amount to this account before thinking about other expenses. At first, the amount is small, but for him, it's a big step. For the first time, he feels like he's building something concrete, something that represents his own financial security. As the months go by, Lucas notices that this new approach is working. He sees his emergency fund balance gradually growing, giving him a sense of security he has never felt before. He starts to understand that true financial freedom doesn't depend only on how much you earn, but on how you use your money. With his emergency fund growing, Lucas no longer has to resort to his credit card for unexpected expenses. This relief is a victory he celebrates internally. Every time he looks at his emergency fund, he feels proud of the progress he's made. But Lucas knows that to truly change his life, he needs to take the next step, making his money work for him. He recalls the passages from the book that talk about the importance of investments. Initially, the idea of investing is intimidating. Lucas always believed that investing was risky, something reserved for wealthy people with a lot of experience. But as he continues reading and watching financial education videos, he discovers that there are accessible ways to invest, even for beginners like him. He learns about concepts like compound interest and realizes the power of long-term investing. Compound interest, or the snowball effect, as he learns, can turn small investments into significant amounts over time. Lucas understands that the secret to maximizing compound interest is consistency. He begins to see money as a seed that needs to be planted and nurtured with discipline, and over time, it will grow into something much bigger. Inspired, he decides that his next step will be to invest part of his emergency fund in a safe investment, such as a government bond, a low-risk fixed-income option that provides steady returns. When Lucas makes his first investment, he feels a mix of excitement and fear. He invests a modest amount, just to start and get familiar with the process. It's a moment of pride because he realizes that he's finally breaking free from inertia and taking control of his financial life. Every month, he allocates a small portion of his salary to this investment, even if it's a symbolic amount. The idea that his money can grow while he sleeps motivates him, and he feels that each new deposit is a step closer to his financial freedom. Over time, Lucas starts to explore more about the world of investments and discovers other types of assets like index funds, which allow him to invest in multiple companies at once, diversifying his risk. He understands that by diversifying, he'll protect his assets against significant losses. Each small learning, each new discovery, strengthens his resolve. He begins to see money as an ally, a powerful tool that can finally work in his favor. Of course, Lucas's journey is not without challenges. In a moment of overconfidence, he decides to invest a bit more in a stock of a promising company, only for it to drop unexpectedly. He loses part of the money he invested and feels the weight of disappointment. For a moment, the old doubts creep in. Am I doing the right thing? What if I'm risking too much? He thinks about giving up, but then remembers that financial success is a journey, built on a series of consistent decisions over time. He reflects on what he read in the book and decides that every mistake is a lesson. Lucas goes back to studying, researching risk management strategies, and learns the importance of not putting all his resources into a single investment. He realizes that by diversifying, he's better protected against market fluctuations. From that point on, he sets a risk limit for himself, ensuring that no single investment is large enough to jeopardize all of his progress. With each small victory, Lucas feels he's getting closer to something bigger. He is no longer at the mercy of financial setbacks, and for the first time in years, he can make long-term plans. He sees that the financial discipline he's been cultivating is the foundation for everything he wants to build. Over time, his emergency fund grows and his investments start to yield returns. Financial freedom, which once seemed so distant, begins to become a real possibility. Now, Lucas looks back and realizes that it all started with a simple habit: pay yourself first. This act of prioritizing his financial security, of investing in himself, became the first step in a transformation that changed his life. He feels in control, and the daily anxiety and sense of failure that once plagued him are slowly disappearing. If you too want to achieve financial stability and learn to invest safely, comment below. I want to invest in my future. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the Rise to Wealth channel, where we bring you real strategies to help you transform your financial life.